Welcome back to WION World is One. You're watching Speed News with me, Vidur Kathuria. Let's get started. US President Donald Trump says he remains hopeful of reaching a deal with Iran even as tensions run high. Trump has warned of possible military action and ordered an aircraft carrier group to West Asia following Iran's deadly crackdown on anti-government protests that peaked last month. Iran's Supreme Leader Khamenei has dismissed the protests as a coup attempt, warning that any US attack would spark a wider conflict. An Axios report says the Trump administration has signaled through multiple channels that it is open to talks. Regional sources say Turkey, Egypt and Qatar are working to arrange a meeting in Ankara later this week between US envoy Steve Witkoff and senior Iranian officials. Members of Romania's Iranian community gathered in Bucharest on Sunday to protest against Tehran's government, which is accused of killing thousands of demonstrators. The protesters waved flags and held placards at Victoria Square, calling for an end to the violence in Iran. Former British Cabinet Minister Peter Mandelson has resigned from the Labour Party. This after his name appeared in a new release of files linked to Jeffrey Epstein. Mandelson was already dismissed last year as Britain's ambassador to the United States over his connections to the convicted sex offender. Documents allege Epstein made 3 payments totaling $75,000 to Mandelson in 2003 and 2004. The latest leak also names Norway's crown princess more than 1,000 times. She has now apologized for her friendship with Epstein. The leak comes at a bad time for the royal as her son prepares to go on trial in Oslo on multiple serious criminal charges, which he denies. At least 15 people were killed in a Russian drone strike on a bus carrying mine workers in Ukraine's Dnipro region. The attack happened on the same day that a temporary reduction in Russian strikes announced by US President Donald Trump was set to end. Meanwhile, President Zelensky has postponed the second round of peace talks originally scheduled for Sunday to Wednesday. The trilateral talks involving Ukraine, the US and Russia will now take place in the UAE on Wednesday and Thursday. Residents of Kyiv found ways to embrace winter despite power and heating shortages, turning frozen rivers into outdoor playgrounds. Cars drifted across icy surfaces, children went sledding, and people gathered for a DJ-led dance party on the frozen Dnipro River. In Kyiv, a day earlier, around 3,000 residents gathered on another frozen stretch for an outdoor party, circling a DJ and dancing on the ice. Costa Rica is at a political crossroads as it heads for the polls for a crucial election, this amid rising drug-related violence. The frontrunner is Laura Fernandez, a candidate backed by outgoing President Rodrigo Chavez. Polls suggest Fernandez could secure a first-round victory with over 40% of the vote, avoiding a runoff. She's running on a law and order platform inspired by El Salvador's Nayib Bukele. The left-wing opponent, Ariel Robles, warns of a potential shift away from democracy under her leadership. Centrist economist Alvaro Ramos cautions that modern dictatorships may not look like the past. The Islamic State group has released a video it claims shows its attack on an Air Force base at Niger's main airport in the capital. The footage aired by the group's Amaq news agency, described the assault as a surprise, coordinated operation. Nigerian authorities say 4 soldiers were injured and several aircraft damaged. In Thursday's attack, state television reports security forces quickly repelled the assault, killing 20 attackers and arresting 11 others. The airport is a strategic site hosting military bases and regional security headquarters. Niger continues to face rising jihadist violence across the Sahel, where militant activity intensified again in 2025. Protesters rallied outside a detention center after a U.S. court ordered the release of 5-year-old Liam Ramos and his father. Asylum seekers from Ecuador detained during an immigration raid in Minnesota. The child, whose image wearing a blue bunny hat went viral, returned to Minneapolis with his father amid public outcry. Demonstrators held signs reading "Justice for Liam," calling for changes to U.S. immigration policy. Protesters say public pressure played a key role in their release. Thousands of people took to the streets of Karachi on Sunday, demanding resignations of local officials and reforms after a deadly shopping mall fire last month. Around 4,000 protesters marched under the slogan "Enough is enough." In a rally organized by Jamaat-e-Islami, demonstrators highlighted long-standing issues such as water and power shortages, inadequate emergency services, and deteriorating infrastructure. The January blaze at Gul Plaza shopping mall, which killed at least 67 people and left more than 15 missing, has intensified public scrutiny of the city's disaster preparedness. At least 9 Venezuelans, including human rights activist Javier Tarazona, were freed on Sunday from the notorious prison in Caracas. Local rights group Foro Penal said families complain the release process remains too slow. Tarazona, who had been jailed for over 4 years on charges his supporters called political, was among those released. The move follows interim President Delcy Rodriguez's announcement of a proposed amnesty law for hundreds of prisoners and plans to repurpose the Helicoid Detention Center in a community and social services facility. Rights groups, however, say hundreds of political prisoners remain behind bars. A cold front moving across Cuba triggered coastal flooding in Havana on Sunday, with powerful waves battering the Malecon. Strong winds pushed seawater into nearby streets and homes. Waves reached up to 4 meters as residents reported water and debris flooding garages and ground floors. State media say evacuations were carried out in low-lying parts of the city, though no official figures were released. Many residents relocated on their own to stay with family and friends. Walkers took to a rarely frozen stretch of sea along Poland's coast on Sunday as extreme cold gripped the country. Prolonged sub-zero temperatures caused parts of the Bay of Gdansk in the southern Baltic to freeze over. Forecasters say the cold spell is intensifying, with temperatures expected to drop as low as minus 22 degrees Celsius in some regions over the weekend. Heavy rains hit Chile's Santiago, sending floodwaters surging through city streets. Eyewitness videos show vehicles swept away by the floods. The storm caused traffic disruptions and power outages, with some areas of the Maipú district recording 17.4 millimeters of rain under an hour. Authorities are monitoring conditions as the city deals with the sudden downpour. A devastating winter storm has killed over 100 people across the United States, with recovery efforts slowed by widespread power outages. More than 170,000 households remain without electricity. Thousands of homeless people are exposed to life-threatening cold. Blizzard conditions hammered the southeast, with North Carolina seeing wind chills near minus 10 degrees Celsius, causing closures of roads, campsites, and beaches. The National Weather Service says multiple regions have recorded record low temperatures. Southern Florida may face its coldest spell since 1989. Meteorologists say another major winter storm is expected, with blizzard warnings already issued for several states. Asian stocks traded mixed on Monday as investors digested stronger than expected private data on China's factory activity for January. The China General Manufacturing PMI rose to 50.3, signaling growth in the sector as manufacturers ramped up production ahead of the Lunar New Year. Japan's Nikkei and Topix saw small gains, while South Korea's Kospi and the Hang Seng in Hong Kong fell sharply. Australia's S&P ASX 200 also declined 1%. Investors remain cautious, weighing China's economic recovery prospects amid global uncertainties. Gold prices fell on Monday, pressured by a firm dollar as investors assessed the US Federal Reserve's future under President Trump's pick for Fed Chair Kevin Warsh. Spot gold dropped 1.5%, touching a one-week low, while silver recovered from a three-week low, rising 1.6%. The stronger dollar makes gold less affordable for holders of other currencies. Investors are uncertain about Warsh's approach to interest rate cuts, though they still expect at least two cuts in 2026. US economic data showed rising inflation, potentially keeping rates steady for now. Meanwhile, platinum and palladium both saw losses. Oil prices fell about 3% on Monday after signs of de-escalation between the US and Iran eased geopolitical fears. President Donald Trump said Iran was seriously talking with Washington, raising hopes of renewed negotiations and reducing the risk of conflict involving the key OPEC producer. Brent crude dropped nearly 3%, around $67 a barrel, while US WTI slid just over 3% to about $63. The pullback follows last week's rally that pushed prices to multi-month highs. Analysts say easing tensions are prompting profit-taking, while OPEC holding output steady and ample global supply continue to weigh on the market. The US dollar held firm in Asian trade as investors weighed what monetary policy might look like under Kevin Warsh, President Trump's pick for Federal Reserve Chair. While markets expect rate cuts, Warsh's preference for shrinking the Fed's balance sheet is seen as supportive for the dollar. The euro stayed below 120, sterling eased slightly, and the dollar index held near Friday's gains. The Japanese yen weakened back above 155 per dollar, pressured by dollar strength and comments from Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi highlighting the benefits of a weaker yen ahead of Japan's snap election. Analysts say the vote could be a key near-term driver for the currency even as intervention risks linger. Elon Musk-owned social media platform X faced a widespread outage in the US on Sunday, leaving thousands of users unable to access the platform. Outage tracking website Down Detector recorded more than 19,000 reports of issues as of 11:19 a.m. Eastern Time, with users reporting problems logging in and loading content. The disruption caused error messages and blank feeds on both the mobile app and web, with many users unable to post or scroll timelines. Indonesia has allowed Elon Musk-owned AI chatbot Grok to resume operations after lifting a temporary ban imposed over sexualized content on the platform. The Southeast Asian nation had suspended Grok 3 weeks ago, citing risks of AI-generated pornographic images, becoming the first country to block access to the tool. Indonesia's Communication and Digital Affairs Ministry said access is being restored on a conditional basis and under strict government supervision. Elon Musk said SpaceX has successfully stopped the unauthorized use of Starlink by Russia. The move comes after Ukraine said Starlink terminals were found on Russian long-range drones used in attacks. Ukraine confirmed it is working with SpaceX to prevent Russia from using Starlink for drone operations. Kyiv said it is developing a system that will allow only authorized Starlink terminals to function inside Ukrainian territory. The documentary on the First Lady of US that's titled Melania has opened with strong ticket sales. Despite mixed reviews from critics, the film earned $7 million in its opening weekend. President Donald Trump promoted the film, saying it is a must-watch. Amazon MGM Studios paid $40 million for the rights and spent another $35 million on marketing. Directed by Brett Ratner, the documentary was released in 1,778 theaters. It is now the biggest opening for a non-concert documentary in 14 years. Bahraini rapper Karachi has entered the Guinness World Records. His song Fasla, featured in Ranveer Singh's blockbuster Dhurandhar, has topped the Arabia charts. The track achieved the highest number of billboards across the region. The song has gone viral in India, especially after Akshay Khanna's now iconic entry scene. Karachi reacted to the milestone in a video that is trending online. Border 2 continues its strong run at the global box office. The Sunny Deol and Varun Dhawan starrer has crossed roughly $44.5 million worldwide. The war drama saw a big jump in collections in its second weekend, starring Sunny Deol, Varun Dhawan, Diljit Dosanjh and Ahan Shetty. The film is now closing in on the 50 million mark globally.